was the history, current state, and impact of workforce education on the U.S. economy, local, state, and federal. And we have a short video just to kind of introduce the topic and get you thinking. Before we move forward, we kind of have to take a step back and look at the history of workforce education. And its first form of legislation started with the old Kern-Blystone Act of Massachusetts, which was actually in 1647. And this basically was about apprenticeships, because that's really the first known thing for workforce education. And it basically set the requirements for the masters, which are the teachers, and the apprentices, which are the students. So the masters were required to teach a certain curriculum to their students in order for them to be ready for the workforce after they were done with their apprenticeship. And then we moved to the 1800s in the Morrill Act, which was the first land grant college provision, and that was basically distributing land to be used for education. And at first this was for all white, which is why the separate but equal. 30 years after the Morrill Act, there was a second Morrill Act passed, which allowed African Americans to benefit as well. And then in the 1900s, President Woodrow Wilson created a commission in order to see if education is warranted and if it really will benefit the economy, putting all the money into it. And the commission decided that it is warranted, and the best thing they can do is act now and get as many kids educated as possible. And then in 1917, the Smith-Hughes Act was passed, which established education as a federal program, specifically vocational education. And it basically just wanted higher skill training, and it established separate state boards as well. And then the 1900s continued. In 1963, there was a bit of a gap between action when it comes to vocational education. The act was passed, which opened up occupational programs, and business and commerce started to be taught to students. And then in the 1980s, it was kind of like a new wave of school reform, school to work transition, they wanted to be easier for the students. So they wanted the students, while they're actually being taught, to establish relationships with business owners, and that way whenever they get into the workforce, they have some credibility behind them, that they know what they're doing. And then Marion Ash, which this was in 1991, said from the early to mid 1980s, 275 education task force were developed, and this is, a task force is just a way to get education out, and their main goal was to promote excellence in the nation's education system. And here are just some questions to see if you guys remember anything. I kind of went over it kind of fast. But in the mid-1600s, a formal type of workforce education was, anyone know? Apprenticeship? Yes. And then what did President Woodrow Wilson's commission achieve? Their main goal was to see if education was, does anyone know? Still don't know? To see if it was warranted, if it was good to put the money into it, because they had to figure out if it would be productive. And here's a multiple choice. Which act established workforce education as a federal program? It wasn't in the 1800s. A? Yeah. Yeah. The Vocational Education Act. And that pretty much wraps up the history. We're moving forward into the future now.
All right, we're going to watch this little commercial real quick. Some of you guys may recognize this campaign, or you're probably too young, but I don't know.
So still. What kind of morning, you? It's rough, dude.
10-4.
Hey, dude, I think that dude wants you.
Well, that's just the pilot.
Dude, not the pilot?
No. I've never done this before. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Whee!
Stay smart. Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
You guys recognize that at all? Does anybody? Okay. There was this huge campaign on Holiday Inn Express. That's just what they did, and they showed like these different people doing, like somebody was a doctor and they would, you know, or somebody was hurt and they'd walk up and just start fixing these people. And they're like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But anyways, what is this? Do you guys have any idea? What does that relate to workforce education? Somebody, why would I even show that clip? Anybody?
So you're not like that idiot driving a helicopter back
There's certain things out there that we have to be trained on. You can't just show up and do stuff. And a lot of times, in past American culture, we just thought, well, we can just figure it out. We can do it. And no, you can't. Sometimes you just have to be trained. So that's what our workforce development program really is. Stereotypes. It says experts say career and technical education has long been stereotyped as an alternative for students who can't cut it in high school. Has anybody ever heard that, whether you agree with it or not? Have you guys ever heard that? Yeah, I have too. It was big, like when I graduated high school in 1994, and which is just crazy. But way back then, the career workforce development programs that they had it was shop class, and that was about it. It's a lot different than what it is today, and so a lot of times that was that stereotype. Whether it's obviously wrong. Things have changed dramatically, because I think it was neat that you said that you're in Cisco. Boy, they never had anything like that when I was growing up. So, yeah, the stereotypes definitely need to change, because there are some alternatives for students that can cut it, which is what it should say now. But the goals of today's workforce development, it not only increases the workers' productivity, but it also increases the success of the business. And if you think of that, why are we here? When we complete this class, when we get a degree from Bowling Green State University and go out there and train people, whether it's in high school, whether it's in community college, or whether it's just special certification classes, are we increasing the workers' productivity, or are we increasing the success of the business? And if we're not doing one of those things, then why in the world are we doing it? Currently in middle schools, junior high school, community colleges, and more, it's really out there. I really thought it was interesting when I was reading that they're starting to add this type of system in middle schools. Has anybody experienced that? Do you guys know? Really? Can you talk about that?
We had a shop class in my middle school.
In middle school? And what
I
is
was
your
in
middle school?
8th grade.
8th grade? Okay. That's crazy. So,
We just, like, took
We had
textbooks.
shop and like life skills, which was like home ec,
okay.
and you could start that at 7th grade.
That's nuts.
Oh yeah, there was home ec in my middle school too.
Really?
Yeah.
DJ?
We had a shop, we also had technology, we had a TV station, and we taught kids how to do, video production and stuff. And we had a home ec, what I call home ec, kind of classes. And then we had a careers class, and they actually started looking at, what is it that I'm good at? Or what is it that I want to do? And it was all about just thinking about high school, not about beyond high school. What am I going to do when I get over there? Because we had a science program that worked with the medical college, and they worked with the coroner's office. So if you want to go into medicine, you could actually, in a science class, end up with some training, working with the surgeons that did the autopsies. And, or you could go into engineering, or you could go into business, you could go into marketing education. I mean, there were all kinds of things. But they helped the middle schoolers focus, which is really important at that age, on what they were going to take in high school so that they could kind of plan. If you know, I'm going to take, it was your freshman year, you had to take English, math, science, social studies, and you got an elective. What are you going to take as an elective? Besides band, choir, you know, or whatever. But what are you going to take? Well, they started to think about, what do I want to do? You know, so if they had a Cisco program offering, then maybe they could have taken a computer class in high school to get them ready to look at that kind of thing further down the line.
Yeah, the school that I'm currently at as a coach, we actually have a full business school. It's a school of business, and kids can track that there. And there's also a nursing program where kids can actually choose to go into nursing in high school. So it's has grown quite a bit. Last but not least, machines versus people. In recent years, technology advances have allowed employers to recognize many low-skilled tasks and lay off workers who once performed them. As we get smarter, our technology is getting smarter, which is in a way replacing us in certain jobs. And so it is so important when we watch that video that Marissa showed, you can just see the importance of increasing our knowledge as just people in general. Okay. Meet the parents. I have a little activity here. So I was trying to think of how could I ask you guys to name jobs that would benefit. If you were a high school student and you were thinking about going into that job, what jobs would benefit from this type of program? So if you guys could just rip off, so what do your parents do? Go ahead. Pardon?
Air conditioning.
Oh, HVAC, is that what you said? HVAC. Okay, there's one job.
Auto body.
Auto body.
RN.
RN. Teach. Okay. Engineer.
IT. Like
IT?
IT.
Okay.
Workers' comp.
Okay. What specifically? Like the office?
Yeah, office.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Robotics engineer.
Robotic, wow. Cool.
Bus
Okay.
driver.
Sure. Anything else, Lee?
Factory worker.
Factory? Okay.
Medical coding.
Like, did you say coding?
Coding, yeah.
C-O-D-I-N-G?
Yeah.
Okay. My parents Business center. Anything else? Okay, so we listed some things that our parents did. Okay, can an HVAC person benefit from today's workforce development in the school? Like what opportunities are available for a person like that?
If you go up the road up 75, you'll see a state-of-the-art HVAC training center at Putnam County Career Center.
Gotcha, so check right there, auto body,
Hannah has that too.
okay? Is that the one that she was talking about? Okay.
It was like almost everything now.
Okay, you said check, 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 check.
A lot of that stuff, yeah.
I just explained that the high school that I
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be an RN, it would be an STM. Which
Yeah.
is like used to be the next level down.
Yeah,
And it's actually a couple levels down, but you can graduate from high school.
yeah,
And make $15-20 an hour.
sure, but
As
it
a-
also
My husband
transfers,
Yeah.
it also transfers.
And, yeah, and then it
so
moves you forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
Teach,
Yes.
Yeah, they have education programs.
engineering,
Mhm.
IT, definitely.
Office work,
clerk
yeah.
work, yeah. Robotics, yeah.
There's a training center at Tri-Rivers Career Center in Marion, Ohio, that actually trains kids to go to work for Honda.
Okay.
And their beginning salary is just about $50 an hour when they graduate from high school.
Okay.
And that's the low end of that career. Yeah.
Bus driver?
Yeah, transportation and diesel mechanics.
Sure. Factory?
Yeah, a little bit.
Sure,
Machine shop,
absolutely. Medical coding?
yeah, medical office,
And then business owner?
yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, so, you can see, we just checked these off the list, and I was just kind of going real quick. So there's definitely an advantage of having that in place, so. This is just a random guess, I'm just gonna poll the audience here. Before the next decade is over, what % of all jobs in Ohio will require training beyond high school? Any guesses?
85%.
Anyone else? 57%, so a little high, it's pretty close, but it's just gonna continue to go up, we all know that. Every year they probably do this stat, it probably increases. Here's another one, between 2008 and 2018, new jobs in Ohio requiring post-secondary education and training will grow by, while jobs for high school graduates and dropouts will grow by just 30,000. So this is comparing the jobs require post-secondary education versus just, jobs that don't. So do we compare 52,000 to 30,000, 97 to 30,000, 124 to 133?
B.
What's the audience say?
C.
C?
B.
DJ?
I really don't know, I'm gonna say D.
There you go. I really don't know.
I really don't.
Must teach us.
So you can see that's a huge number, 153,000. So that's compared to 30,000, that's pretty good. So there's our website. So what did you guys take from what we just talked about? What's neat? And everything out.
Current workforce education is very important and it's growing.
Sure.
A lot of A
Yeah, try it the hard way one time. I said you didn't need a degree for many, many years. So,
You
yeah.
did it for the longest time.
What's that?
You did it for the longest
Yeah.
time in the 90s.
Yep. So I'm at a point in life right now where I want a job and I just can't have it because I need that piece of paper that says you can do it. Frustrating.
And you know what, the other thing to point out here is that kids who are in those programs, all these things, my daughter's friend was in the engineering program at her high school. She got her first year of engineering at Notre Dame waived because of her high school engineering program. She graduated in 4 years with a master's degree from Notre Dame.
That saved her.
A ton of money,
Yeah.
and then she was an athlete,
Yeah.
so they paid for it. But the fact that, and UT does the same thing. Most of their kids, because the teacher who's teaching in the classroom is a professor from UT. So there's a transfer right there. There's a guy at, I know that was one of my students at Austin's high school who's in finance. And his students get financial, or